Now that the season 3 is out, people have digested it, binged it. What's the reaction that you're getting about Paul this season?
People are grumpy.
Yeah,
with
people
Paul.
are grumpy.
People are a little grumpy with Paul. But the thing I want everybody to remember is every single character in our show is flawed, because every person that walks this earth is flawed, you know? And our creator, Sarah Lampert, and our writing staff led by Sarah Glinsky just really want to show that, like, in tough times, people a lot of times make decisions that aren't the best for them, you know? And this season is a reckoning for all of our characters who have made a lot of decisions over the first 2 seasons that maybe weren't the best thing for them to do, advice for them to ignore. A lot of those things are catching up to everybody this season, and they catch up to Paul in a big, big way. So fan response is incredible. I love how invested our fans are. We are not here as one of the most watched shows on Netflix in the past 4 years without them. Love them, appreciate them, but yeah, they're grumpy with Paul right now, and they are letting me know.
I'm sure they are. Was it exciting and challenging for you as an actor to see kind of where Paul went this season? Because I know we spoke to Sarah, and she said that the two of you had very long conversations about some key scenes from the season as well.
We are a very highly collaborative relationship, myself and Sarah over the first 2 seasons, Deb Fisher, and in season 3, Sarah Glinsky as well. And I love that. I trust them. They are mapping out a show that's unlike anything I've ever been on before. The twists, the turns, the cliffhangers, all of this stuff, and it works. You know, so these scenes, my number one word for this season for me, filling the shoes of Paul, is intimidating. I was intimidated with some of the stuff they presented me with, and I wasn't sure if I could keep up with our 2 leads who are so incredible. I mean, Brienne and Tony, they set the bar so high. And when they're asking Paul to reach these emotional depths as well, of being broken, of just falling apart in front of our eyes, of letting a little bit of his inner, you know, darkness out, you know, I was intimidated.
Sure, yeah.
But they are so great at talking you through it, at hearing what you're saying as well, and applying some of the things that you bring to the table as the character inhabiting the actor. I mean, as the actor inhabiting the character. And I think they do it for a lot of us. You know, I can't speak for everybody's relationships, but we have a trust in each other from top to bottom. And our crew is incredible too. So when we go to work and we are asked to do things that, you know, make us blanch a little bit, we know that we have a safe environment to go to, and that means the world as well.
Sure. You know, the scene that probably a lot of people are reaching out to you about and talking about is that scene in episode 8, I believe, when you find out that Georgia is actually not pregnant, and it causes some really irreparable damage between the 2 of them. But that is a very intense scene. Can you kind of walk me through what it was like preparing for that, shooting that? And
Sharon, our director, and I met first and walked through it. I was very, as the person, Scott, as a fan invested in the show, resistant to hitting the wall. I was very like, I can't do this. We can't. Paul can't do that. Paul can't do this. And I think that's me, like, as a fan going, Paul can't do this. And she said, we're doing it, and it has to be done. But it's coming out of hurt. It's not out of anger. And we really tried to utilize that in that scene and keep a lot of his frustration down and a lot more of his broken heart come out. And the moment that actually, I think, clicked for me the most was in that scene. Georgia says the words, "I can't trust you," to Paul. And Paul has been begging her to trust him since season 1, to open up and be honest with him. I would love if somebody would put a reel together or a TikTok together of all the times Paul asked Georgia to be honest with him. She looks him in the eyes and says, "No more lies, no more secrets, no more lies, no more secrets." And in that moment, she says, "I can't trust you," and he doesn't understand it. And you hear me yell, "Why?" off camera. And that was encouraged by them on set, like, just be over each other, be talking, be yelling over each other, all these things, which a lot of times on a show, they're asking you to please give each other space for sound and all these other things. That was a messy scene, and it was a messy day, but we did not do too many takes of it. We were so prepared. I get a little, working across from Brienne over the first couple of seasons, and in that relationship, that day was very hard. But how can you not give everything when you have a partner in a scene like that that's giving so much back to you? So I just know I got to meet that bar. Sharon, our director, was incredible. And I think I have a picture of the three of us all in an embrace after we called cut on the entire scene. It was just so emotionally charged, and we felt really good about it leaving that day, even though the content is really rough. I guess it's on TikTok everywhere.
Sure. Well, it stays with you because it's not even like so much. It is obviously hitting the wall, but like the way that Paul reacts afterwards, you know, hands up, like not going to hurt you. And you could see like George's PTSD coming back. Like
it's
you guys
immediate
did a great
regret.
job.
It's immediate regret for Paul in that moment. And he never, ever meant to hurt her. That was never his intention. But he is somebody who wants a family, and he didn't know that before he met her. He is somebody who had a family that he never had before he met her. He is somebody who loves Austin and Ginny and has stepped in and said, I will be there for them as a father figure. And that's a really tough thing to do, to invest in. And he did it. And I know that because of my own personal life. I have a stepfather who came into my life at 6 years old and said, you are not my blood, but I will be your father. And we tried to bring some of that to Paul. And so the breaking of all of that with the lie of being pregnant was just, he's out of his body at that point a little bit. But I'm not saying he was right. I'm not condoning the action, but definitely I can see what put him there in that moment.
Do you feel like if Georgia was honest with him from season 1, that he could have been able to get over that?
Yes. Yeah. And that's like the most heartbreaking thing Paul says in that scene. If you just would have told me, I could have protected us.
Yeah.
And he says, I could have protected us, you know, but you never told me.
Right.
I mean, he's very reticent to use his family's power at all. He wants to do things on his own way. He doesn't want to lean on his parents. You saw it with the wedding, with the lawyer. He was paying for it out of his own pocket. Paul goes broke this season paying for that lawyer to protect Georgia. But you can't protect yourself from things you can't see coming. If she just would have been honest with him, he would have been able to see these things coming. And who knows, maybe he would have even gone back to his family and said, I need you to make a bunch of this go away. Paul might have that kind of power. But her resistance to tell me that led to my inability to protect her. Yeah. And people are mad because he leaves her at her lowest, and I completely get it. But for Paul, it's been
years.
In the show, it's a very fast engagement, very fast marriage. But their entire relationship has been built on lies. But he never thought it would be about something like that, so personal. It was always about her past. This was about the two of them in the present, and he just couldn't do it anymore. Yeah.
Are we going to, I know you can't tell me what's going to happen in season 4, but do you feel like we are going to explore, do you think Paul's going to go on more of a spiral? Because now he doesn't even have the trust of the community, his job's in jeopardy.
Yeah, Paul cares a lot. I think in the first season, you see there's a date between Paul and Georgia, and he asks her, what do you really want? And she, talks about freedom, to be who I am, and to just live my life without running. And that's so special, and that's everything that she wants. And I don't know that Paul was ever going to be able to give her that. Paul says he wants to make real change in the world. He doesn't want to do it the way that his father did it. He wants to do it on his own. Yeah. And he really believes that. And that dream is now slipping away. Like, his ability to do good in the world has now been taken away from him in some ways. And if he gets recalled, where does he go? So for me, it's always been really interesting. Paul went to Brown University. He got out of school, and then he left the country for years, went and toured the world, like backpacked everywhere by himself. And I always wondered, like, somebody who is so driven, wants to be governor by the time they're 40, wants to make change in the world, why would you leave college and then go off the grid for a little while? Yeah. And I think there's parts of Paul we still don't understand and we haven't seen. So his resilience, how he rebounds from this in season 4, I'd love to see some of that. I'd love to see a little bit of the old Paul. Yeah. We've heard how good he is at his job. He was elected mayor before Georgia ever walked into his life. I'd love to see that fight, that wit, that charm come back a little bit in season 4. But everything else that's happening, I have zero idea.
You have zero idea. I mean, he could be a father next
We didn't even know about the scene at the end of season 3 until literally the table read.
Oh, really? Okay.
We were reading the script, and at the very end, the addendum of her drinking the milk. And the words, Mom, don't you only drink milk when you're pregnant, was not in the script. That was like a late ad. So I think all of us were like, even till the last moment, didn't even know necessarily what all of it meant.
Interesting.
And that's just how it is on the show. We got to keep everything buttoned up, everything under wraps. So I know zero about what's going to happen in 4, and I'm so excited to see what the writers turn out. And they're working right now.
Sure.
So I can't wait to see what comes out of it.
That's amazing that you didn't know until like the last second. What was like watching it for the first time for you, that scene?
I watched this show as a fan.
Okay.
I am a little bit isolated from especially our main core young cast. Yeah. I'm never involved with them for the most part, outside of like the costume party in season 2. So I don't get to see the amazing work they're doing day to day. And it was kind of that way on Friday Night Lights as well. Okay. Our cast was so big and we shot so quickly that I didn't really see everybody's work until it came out on television. Yeah. And that's when I became a fan. And so I watched this show as a fan, you know. Abby is incredible. Nora is incredible. You know, watching Maxine and Marcus, watching the Baker household. I'm never there. Everyone is so good.
They're so good.
Our casting directors knocked it out of the park. Sarah's vision is 100% realized through these actors. And so I just watch as a fan. So every cliffhanger and jaw-dropping moment that happens for the fans out there, I'm in my living room doing the same thing. And my wife, she is like, not the most, like, she's very effusive when she's from the South. Okay. So like, bless your heart, thank yous, like, are very big. Even if it's something, if you give her a gift she doesn't love, she's like, oh my God, thank you. When the end of season 1 happened, she sat there silent and then turned to me and went, this show is good. And it was so quiet and so small. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have really done something. Like, there is no Southern, you know, anything. There is no little bless your heart. There's nothing on that at all. It is just a very raw, like, this show is good.
Show is good, yeah.
And over time, I've had those same reactions as our fans, as my wife. So I'm just very fortunate to be a part of this thing.
Yeah, definitely. What was her reaction after this season?
Oh my God. Like, it was definitely, they've gotten bigger. The reactions have gotten bigger, but it's because of how invested we are now, you know, at this point. And it's just like the twists and turns in season 1, they feel like just a pebble in a pond compared to where we are now. I mean, these are earth-shaking, tectonic plates are moving, like, earth-shattering things, you know?
No, I'm sure she's like, she's like, Scott, I didn't know you had that in you. I'm sure in that one scene.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, going into that day, I had so much self-doubt. Yeah, she is my rock. She's the one that assures me that, no, you can go in, you're going to crush this, you're going to do it. And also everybody at work is so supportive. And I just hope, I know the fans aren't happy with what the actions are in the scene, but I hope they at least, you know, look at it and go, wow, this is, you know, they were able to do something in that scene.
I know. What do you feel like Paul's reaction will be when he finds out about the Joe of it all?
Well, people ask me, like, what are your favorite parts of season 4? And both of them are very small moments, and both of them are at Blue Farm, and both of them are with Joe and with Zion.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite moment, I think, probably of all, well, it's cut in half, right? Joe and Paul had a very special relationship this season, where they don't really know everything each other are into, and their level of involvement with Georgia. And so there's one moment where Paul said, where Joe's like, I think it's time for you to go home. And I go, can't go home. Wife's a murderer. It's like such a small, funny moment. And it makes people laugh. It gives you a little levity in the midst of all this stuff. And he feels like he can be that with Joe for some reason. They know each other, but not truly. So it's almost like telling people, like a stranger on vacation, stuff about your life that you would never tell your friends back home, right? That's Paul, like, opens up with Joe that way, and I love it. And then towards the end of the season, and then there's the baby. What baby? There's no baby. Now that both of them have witnessed that moment together, for there to actually be a new baby, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. There's got to be humor in those moments, as Paul and Joe find out. So that's, you know, but Paul has already packed up and left, packed up and moved back in, packed up and left again. So, I mean, who knows?
Right, the Georgia and Paul story. Do you feel like the Georgia and Paul story is to be continued?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Gil is going to prison for good now. Austin is still there, and I think Paul and Austin have a very special relationship. Diesel's so great.
Yeah, he is.
And I love that relationship, and I would love to see that continue. And I think that Paul has a desire to still be involved in Austin's life, even if he's not 100% involved in the family. Georgia's still a massive force in his town of Wellsbury. They're going to cross paths, and she's definitely going to be involved in the goings on. So Paul's going to have to he's going to have to face her. But maybe we could get back to a little bit more of that wit and that banter where they're light with each other on the surface, even though underneath they're just like, you know what I mean? But I think that would be such a fun thing to do in season 4. I think they're definitely not out of each other's lives for good. I don't know whose baby it is. I don't know what happens with the baby. I don't know anything happening in season 4. But I think that Georgia dynamic will still exist.
You have played such amazing characters over your career. Where does Paul kind of rank for you? It's like probably trying to ask you to pick your favorite child.
They're each their own, right? And it's funny how characters can mirror where you're at in life. You know, Jason Street, I was green as can be.
Yeah.
I played football in high school and college, and, you know, that character was just such a special, heavy character to play. For it to be my first thing meant I had to grow up a lot, and I had to do that in real life as well as on screen. And George Tucker in Heart of Dixie was so light and so funny and competitive and all these things. And I had a lot of serious things going on in my life at the time, you know, getting, you know, well, fun things, getting married, buying a house, but big, like, adult moves. And I could go to work in any pressure that was outside. And then, you know, towards the end of the series, just like some tough stuff that our family went through. And I could still go to work and laugh and play. But Paul is my first step into like real, I don't want to say leading man, but I don't know what other term, but he kind of is like that in this town. He's a town leader. He's kind of like a leading man character in the show, and I've never really been asked to play that before. So for me, this is like maybe fully realized adult Scott, like in this body, you know, but still allowed to have some moments of humor and everything. Where does he rank? Oh, it's hard to rank them. They all stand next to each other. It's almost like, you know, the evolution of man charts, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Tiny monkey, you know, fully grown, realized walking.
Sure, totally.
I mean, like, I don't know that any of them are monkeys, but I mean, you know,
good analogy.
there's like, you know, over time,
Uh-huh.
I think they all stand next to each other on a chart like that. I don't know that there's like a place that I could ever put them on, like a podium or anything.
You know, Heart of Dixie was canceled way too soon. And,
I think so,
a lot
too.
of people's opinion.
I think so too.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, the last couple of years, you know, back in 2020, especially when everybody was, you know, inside and locked away, and it's like they were trying to find places to escape to, and there's no better place than Bluebell to go to.
Yeah.
Like all your worries can go away while you're watching Heart of Dixie. And it's just so funny what happens with timing in this world, you know? Maybe if we would have been ending closer to that beginning, they would have just brought us back.
Yeah.
You know,
but so true.
But you know, revivals happen all the time. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Do you think about like where your characters would be, like where George would be?
Oh, I know where George is. He's him and Annabeth are up in Nashville. She's fully fledged nurse now, and he's still with Tansy's brothers, just like keeping the Truitt brothers on the road, music manager. He's probably picked up a couple other people, maybe put a song out himself. Doesn't like it when people listen to it, but you know, keeps on his own private listing on iTunes or something. You know what I mean?
I love that. Would you?
Apple Music, I guess. Gosh, I just dated myself in such a big way.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Are there any Heart of Dixie, Friday Night Lights people that you would love to bring over to Ginny and Georgia? I know Minka is now part of the Netflix family as well. We always sometimes see crossovers.
Well, you know, I should keep it going. I mean, Cress Williams and I worked together on Friday Night Lights.
Yep.
And then we worked together on Heart of Dixie. And then I worked with Brianne Howie on Heart of Dixie.
Yeah, that's right.
And now we're working together here. So, like, maybe Cress should come along. Get Cress over here for the third time. I don't need any more good-looking guys, though, on the show. I'm already competing with Zion and with Joe.
Right.
No, but I have been so fortunate to work with so many, not only incredibly gifted actors, but incredible humans. Still friends with Rachel, still friends with Wilson. Like, Willie and I talk a lot, like, still to this day, and from Friday Night Lights, like, Zach Gilford and I are like, I would love it if Zach would swing by, you know, like, come on, get him on the show for a minute.
Definitely.
You know, Zach can play anything.
Yeah.
You know? But, I mean, Gaius, Charles, and I are still good friends. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on. So anybody we could get from those shows, and I know Sarah would also 100%, Sarah Lampert, our creator, would 100%.
Oh, you'd get
like
fans going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really would. I know you said that you would be open to joining the reboot or making an appearance on a reboot for Friday Night Lights. Have those conversations been happening since?
No, they haven't.
No, okay.
I haven't gotten a phone call or anything. I think the thing with Friday Night Lights is the movie, and it's so funny. People who have seen the movie just think that, you know, the show is set in Permian, but it's not. It's set in Dillon. It's a brand new imaginary city, actually. And from what I understand for the new one, it's going to be a different town. So does it make sense for Jason to show up? Who knows? He's a sports agent now in New York. NIL, name, image, and licensing. That's a whole, and likeness licensing is a whole new thing for high school kids going into college. So maybe Jason could come and scout some players down there. But we finished our version of Friday Night Lights, or the story of Dillon. We left it in such a good way, the story of Coach Taylor and Tammy Taylor. And they left that town. I think when they left that town, it kind of, you know, closed the book for us as the viewers on Dillon. So wherever this new town is, you know, if it makes sense for me to go, 100%, I would love to work with that creative team, with any of those actors again, but I think they have a new story to tell. And I'm sure it's going to be just as good, if not even more impactful than what we were able to tell.
Definitely.
You know, with Pete Berg and Jason Katims starting at the top, they're just going to build something special like they did with us. So.
100%. I know your kids are young, but are they into it? Are they starting to understand what Dad does a little bit?
And so they have a hard time with the live action stuff.
Okay.
I think Heart of Dixie would be maybe the first live action thing. We showed them a Hallmark movie that I did called Taking the Reins. And they were like, you don't ride horses. Where's Mom? You were never married to that woman, right?
That'd be weird.
And so they don't get that, but what they do understand is all my voiceover work.
Okay.
I do a ton of video game animated voiceover work. So they hear me as Gwen's dad and Spidey and his amazing friends. And
we are big fans of that in my house.
There you go. Okay, so I'm Gwen's dad. My character looks nothing like me. Looks like my best friend Matt, actually. Shout out Matty B. But we, you know, they hear my voice and they understand, because at night, my wife and I, every single night, we read to them. Now my son's old enough that he now reads to us. You know, he's 10 and our daughter's starting to do the same thing, but they've heard me do voices. I read all of The Hobbit in all of like 1,000 different voices. So when they hear my voice, even different, slightly different than mine, they understand that it's me putting on a character. And then they identified who I was on Masked Singer within 2 episodes.
Did they really?
Like, yeah, because I also sing to them. I sing to them almost every night. So that stuff they really get. That stuff they really love. The live action stuff, they're not quite on board with yet, because it's tough to separate.
Of course,
that's Dad. The character element of it, they're not quite sure on yet.
Sure.